Okay, we're going to start from chapter 42. Okay, I'm not sure if you have the printout. It's page Kuf Nun Ches. You don't. Okay, so you listen. We'll discuss it. We read chapter 42. Vayiboku Amoyim. It says that Moshe extended his hand over the Red Sea, and the water split. Doshu Razal. Vayiboka Yam Lo Nemar. It doesn't say the sea split. It says the water split. I mean, if you're splitting the sea, splitting water, you say, connotes one thing. Splitting the sea connotes something else. Could you imagine splitting the Atlantic or splitting a swimming pool? It's quite a difference. But yet, when it speaks about splitting the sea, he split the water. The water split. Lo Nemar Ela Vayiboku Amayim. So what does it come to connote? So the Midrash says, Kol Meinu Sheba'olam Nifku. It's not only the Red Sea split, every body of water in the world split. So therefore, this became a global event that everybody in existence was aware that something was happening, which it couldn't be denied. So the event, what took place at the Yam Suf, at the Red Sea, was replicated in every other location in the world. But Rashi cites the Midrash that not only did the bodies of water split, that even if you had a vessel that had water in it, all water split regardless of where the water was located. This you'll be able to understand based on what we explained. He said earlier something phenomenal. The majority of the world is covered with water. Water is something which there's nothing more physical, representing physicality in water. Why? Because everything in existence has some profile in terms of form. Even a granule of sand, it has a profile. It may be, you may not appreciate it unless you put it under the microscope, but water is just a mass. So something which is lacking in form, which represents the most innate level of physicality, is water. Water. And the majority of the world is covered with water. When the water split, what does that indicate? That we are the ultimate spiritual beings, because anything that's physical, regardless of its dimension of physicality, cannot stand in the presence of something which is ultimately spiritual. Spiritual always supersedes something that's physical. So it's not the sea. The emphasis is not the sea. The emphasis is the water. What water represents? It represents the ultimate of physicality. So who supersedes physicality? Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people. Because although we're physical people in our physical makeup, but our dimension and our significance, that's spiritual. It's not physical. You know, we say in Lamanatseach, David HaMelech says it in Psalms, Elo v'rechav elo basusim. The nations, they with their horses, right, with their chariots, with their horses. V'anachtu b'shem Hashem Elokeinu naskin. We come to battle with the name of God. They come with their weaponry, whatever the weaponry is. The Jew throughout the ages, this is David HaMelech speaking, King David speaking. Anachtu b'shem Hashem Elokeinu naskir. We come, we mention the name of God. Heimel korov v'nefolu. They bow and they fall. Anachtu kam v'nesodot. We stand and we're firm. What do they fall and what do we stand? Who are we? We represent God. God supersedes everything. God wills everything. So if our essence is connected, is linked to Hashem, nothing stands in our presence. Okay? Voyu kadoshim laHashem kmo shizbar lamalo. Umneze hoya kriyas yamsuf mitzar hamayim bilvad. So why did it split? It didn't split because it was a sea. It split because of its representation. The representation was water. Lo mitzar hayam ki roishu hamayim nifkom b'yom shvi shel Pesach. He said, and when did it happen? On the 7th day of Pesach. 7 days out of Egypt. Oz yotzi Yisrael legamri lios moshel mamidas hamayim. Shem chumrim miklolam. When did the Egyptians? When were we free of our masters? When the Egyptians drowned in the sea. So when we fully extricated from bondage on the 7th day, because that's when the Egyptian armies, that's when they drowned. They were destroyed. Because until then there was a little bit of an infringement. They were holding on to us. Lekach kol hamayim ba'olam nifku, vilo nifka rakayam. Let's say only the sea would have split, and the other waters throughout the world wouldn't have split. Lo yam memsholi yisro rakalayam said it would have indicated what did the Jewish people dominate? The Red Sea. But if every body of water throughout the world split, we dominate physicality. V'lo kol midas hamayim, avol Yisrael ha'yimoshim al kol hamayim. But that all bodies of water split throughout the world, we dominate what water represents. So I was just thinking, very simple. Why did God create existence? For the sake of Torah, for the sake of the Jewish people. Because we are the only people who have relevance to that. So the world is only to facilitate our objective. Nothing other than that. So regardless of the dimension of the world, well, what's its value? It has no value unto itself. Its value is only to serve and facilitate our value. So of course we dominate it. What's the value of food? It's only, what? To feed people. But if you have no people to feed, food has no value. So existence only has value if it's utilized in the context that it was meant to be utilized for. So if water represents physical, what is the value of material, physical? It's only for that. Reshis bar Elokim, for the sake of Torah, for the sake of Klal Yisrael. Therefore, we are the dominant figure. We dominate existence for that reason. And how's it displayed? How's that confirmed? All water throughout the world splits. I was thinking, the Gemara tells over a story that there was a man. He was known as Nechunya Chofe Boros. Nechunya, the man who dug water holes, water cisterns. What did he dig these water cisterns for? When the Jews would travel from Babylon, to Yerushalayim to be Ola Regel to visit the Temple Mount 3 times a year, by digging all along the route these water holes, he would provide water for them, and he did this gratis, volunteer. He wasn't paid for this. So he was known Nechunya Chofe Boros, Nechunya, the digger of the pits, the water holes. What happened? One day, his daughter, he had a little daughter, fell into a well. You fall into a well, it's not simple, you come out alive. So right away, the father went to Reb Chanina Mendoza, who was the great tzaddik of the generation. He's the person that the whole world is sustained at his merit. There's a heavenly voice comes out from Sinai. The whole world is sustained in the merit of Chanina, my son. That's how holy he is. So immediately runs there, he consults with Reb Chanina Mendoza. He says, what is it? It's okay. She's alive. Comes the second hour. She's still alive, not to worry. Third hour, he says, she just came out of the pit. She just came out of the well. So they say, how do you know? Are you a prophet? This is not, the era of prophecy no longer exists. How do you know? He says, I'll tell you I know. Because it is impossible. A man who used water only to benefit people, it's not possible his child should die in the water. Not possible. It says, a person, lo yikosher balzaro, a person cannot be hurt by something which he utilized for something so special. Therefore, it's impossible. Cannot be. Okay? Then it says, some time passed, his son died of thirst. He had a son who died of thirst. So the question is, we just finished saying that the reason why the daughter came out, miraculously came out, because he had such merit, providing water, using water for such a valuable accommodation, it is impossible his child should be hurt through water, should drown through water. So, but his child died of thirst, was denied water. So they asked the question, so they make a differentiation. What's the differentiation? To be hurt through water, which he provided with water that only good, water cannot damage you. You cannot suffer. But to be denied water, that's something else, denied water. But there's another answer which the early commentators say. They say this, very interesting. Who is Reb Chanina Mendoza? He was the holiest man of the generation. Because when he said, because of the statement he said, that's the reason why. If Reb Chanina ben Dosa wouldn't have made this statement, how could a person who provided such good, how could he be harmed through water? So because he was consulted continuously, that's why she came out alive. Regarding the son, he wasn't aware. They didn't consult with him. It says he died of thirst. Meaning, so the way it's explained, even if you have merit, unless you come and you present your case based on your merit, sometimes the merit doesn't help you. So since Reb Chanina ben Dosa, being that special person, he was the advocate with the merit, that's the reason why the merit was valued. But let's talk with the moral now, to understand it at another level. What does water represent? Water represents the ultimate of physical. Physical. Who's Reb Chanina ben Dosa? He's the spiritual being. As we have the case with Pinchas ben Yair. He had to cross the river. The river didn't split. He says, if you don't split, I will decree water will never ever flow on this spot again. The river split. So what does that say? Well, who's Pinchas ben Yair? Pinchas ben Yair was the father of Shimi Yehoy. That's who he is. And Pinchas ben Yair was that special holy person. He represents spirituality. Something physical cannot stand in the place of something spiritual. It supersedes it. Because Chanina ben Dosa says she cannot drown. Who's Reb Chanina ben Dosa? He's the ultimate spiritual. Therefore, the water cannot consume. Because the water causing her to die automatically is contrary to Reb Chanina ben Dosa's saying. And Reb Chanina ben Dosa, being the spiritual, he supersedes the physical. Regarding the other, he didn't say a word. He was unaware. Being unaware, his son died of thirst. But dying of thirst, it's being denied water. It's not water subsuming the person, drowning the person. There it was a withdrawal of water. It's not splitting hairs, if you understand it. Okay? Vayet Moshe's yodo layam. Moshe had his staff, he extended it over the sea. Right? Sends it over the sea. The Mechilta says, Moshe Lamelech, what is it analogous to? When he extended his hand over the sea, what is it analogous to? Lamelech Bosav Adam Sheishlo Shtei Ginos. A mortal king, he has two gardens. Zu Lifnim Mizu, and one is behind the other. An outer garden and inner garden. Mosa Pnimi L'Shomer. He gave it over that the watchman should watch the garden. And the king wanted to go in his garden, and the watchman didn't let him go into the garden. Amalo b'shem HaMelech. 1 second. Not didn't let the king, didn't let the other watchman, the two gardens. So he said to him, V'lo kibel olav. So he says to the watchman, he says, I have permission, the king wants me to go into the garden. The watchman is not letting him through, even although he's speaking in the name of the king. Ad shenog HaMelech ubo. Until the king had to come himself, says, let the man in. Yeah, the watchman did not want to let the person who was sent by the king to go into the garden. He says, I will not let him. The king says, you let him in. Or else it's over. The moment the king comes with this person who's supposed to go in, the watchman started to flee because he realized he's going to hear the music, right? Because he denied, he disobeyed the order of the king. He says, I've been telling you in the name of the king continuously, and you didn't listen. It fell on deaf ears. If initially you weren't concerned for the king's dictating order, so why now when the king comes, why are you fleeing? He says, I'm not fleeing because of you. I'm fleeing because now the king is here. Before it was just, you told me the king had said. But now the king's here, now I flee for my life. Kach Moshe, listen to the story. Moshe comes now. Why does the ocean flow horizontally? Why does the ocean not naturally split? Everything in physical existence has an angel that was created to maintain its function. So there's an angel of the sea. There is an angel. So Moshe comes, the Gemara says, he comes to the sea, he says, split. The angel says, God told me to flow. You're telling me to split? Right? Just as you're telling me to split, but God said to me, I'm supposed to flow. So Moshe says, when I tell you split, do you think it's in my name? Every word that I say is in the name of God. So the king said you're supposed to split. And it was this back and forth. And the angel of the sea wasn't so simple. He wasn't willing to relent and to step aside. Moshe comes and speaks in the name of God. V'lo kibel olav. He's not willing to split. The sea is not willing to split. Heralo hamate. He took out the stick, his staff. All the miracles took place through the staff. V'lo kibel olav. On the staff, the 10 plagues were it was made of diamond. The staff originally was created in the time of Adam, Adam Rishon. It was the Garden of Eden. It had all the 10 plagues. Also had all the names of God engraved in the diamond. So he shows him the dictate. It's engraved on it. This is not an ordinary staff. The sea is not splitting. Again, until God came himself, revealed himself at the sea. Now the sea flees. The sea starts fleeing. Where do we see it fled? We say in Hallel. What did the sea see? It saw God's presence. When it saw it, it began fleeing. So Moshe says to the sea, I've been telling you in the name of God continuously. That's what you're supposed to do, split. So why also now that God's here, why are you fleeing? So Moshe says to the sea, why now are you running? It's not because of you, Ben Amram. He doesn't refer to him as Moshe. The son of Amram. The master that the world trembles from. That's the one. That's the Midrash. So what is the Midrash actually saying? Is it the sea didn't believe what Moshe had said? That's the question. If the sea didn't believe Moshe, so what's the question? Of course, a person says, you know something, Rothschild said I should withdraw $1 million on his account. You understand? When I hear it from Rothschild, we'll talk about withdrawing the $1 million. What's your credibility? What are you, Rothschild's agent? Are you his CEO? You're not, right? So if that's the case, but that can't be. So then the whole midrash has no value. You mean Moshe? Why now are you fleeing? You know why? Because I didn't believe. Now I see God is here Himself. So evidently the sea did believe that Moshe is speaking in the name of God, and that's what Moshe says. Why? If you knew when I came and spoke, I'm speaking in the name of God. So why now, when God comes Himself, why are you fleeing now? You should have fled before, no less. So now it's a good question. So now you have to understand the sea's response. Well, because now God's here. What do you mean God's here? But if you believe that I'm speaking in the name of God, don't you realize God ultimately is going to come? And you're going to have to split in either case. So what was His representation? What's the sea's? How's the sea processing it? The angel of the sea. Right? That's what has to be explained here. But I'll tell you, maybe something that's analogous. We all believe in God. We all believe in God, Baruch Hashem. And we believe in divine providence, and we believe. But yet, we still do many things as we choose to do. Even though we're aware and we believe God is aware of everything we do. Of course, why? God's there, we're here. That's the way it is. But let's say, God forbid, a person has a problem, and he really needs God's help. All of a sudden, God becomes blatantly clear to you. Then you behave differently. You need the green card. It's not coming through so quick. Okay? You know something? I'm going to behave myself. Every morning, tefillin, I'm going to be there on time. That's the way it is. Otherwise, you have it. We'll talk about the job in the future. Okay? Not holding there. So if that's the case, but you see, it's not really a comparison. We're talking about an angel. I'm not talking about a human being. A human being has endless blockage. We're withdrawn. An angel senses God's presence. If Moshe is speaking in the name of God, and that's a reality, the angel should respond no differently than God is here Himself. So how do we understand? So if Moshe is credible, and the angel of the sea knows Moshe, he brought about the 10 plagues in Egypt. Egypt was destroyed through Moshe Rabbeinu. So if that's the case, he's definitely credible. And he has the staff to show it. So why isn't it splitting? So that was Moshe's question. Lama Tabareh. Why all of a sudden now that God's here, why are you fleeing? You should have fled before. Okay? HaMedrash says, he says, the Midrash explains what we explained before. Ki Yisrael konu kasher ovru ayah male elyon penimis. When did we become fully spiritualized God's people? Before Sinai. Right? It's when we passed through the sea. When we passed through the sea, that was the beginning of the end of the Egyptians. Egyptians were going to be destroyed. So when did we assume the full posture of spiritual beings? As a result, he says, why are the Jews called Ivri? The Midrash, different Midrash. Because We became spiritual beings as a result of passing through the sea. We passed through the sea, not because of Avram. It's because we passed through the sea. So because we passed through, because passing means we were over, we passed through the sea. So because we assumed that spiritual posture profile, that's what we call the Ivri. Okay? Masha Yikodem Lezeh. V'zeh Melech, Moshe Melech, this is the analogy. Shehoyo lo shtei ginos, he had two gardens. Sheheim zulifnim, one is behind the other. Pirush ki leMoshe nimsa agina pnimis. Moshe himself, he was in the inner sanctums, even before the sea split. Moshe was God's agent. He was the Redeemer. Dahainu mala lokis. He already had that spiritual dimension. Moshe had it before we assumed the spiritual dimension. Malus Moshe Magi Ad Lashem. His dimension, he had that direct linkage to God. So Moshe himself, he could dictate nature. As we said, nature cannot stand in the presence of something that's spiritual. Because what is nature? Nature is only there to facilitate the spiritual. So it's like on the outside versus on the inside. What is the core? The core is Moshe. What is nature? That's like the leaf. That only accommodates the fruit, that the fruit should develop and be protected from the sun and whatever it has to be protected from. That's what the physicality is. The physicality has no value unto itself. What is the innate value? The spirituality, that's innately valuable. Rak shomer ateva umanig ateva lo rosh yichnos Moshe lamala zos. What could the sea accept? How could you have a physical being who's physical have a spiritual dimension? No less than an angel. Moshe Rabbeinu was greater than an angel. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu greater than an angel? Greater than the greatest angel. Because an angel is what it is because God created it as being that. How do you become a Moshe Rabbeinu? That's through choices. If you make endless choices, that's through your own initiative. So therefore, the dimension of the person is attributed to himself. It's not attributed to anybody but himself. So therefore, but to believe that he himself has risen to that level, but he's physical. The angel could not process what the reality of Moshe Rabbeinu was. So what God says, he's my man. God had to come and attest to the fact that he is that. There's a direct linkage between him and me. As a result of that, the sea split. He didn't realize, the Gemara tells a phenomenal story. Gemara tells a story, there was a great rabbi, he was a colleague of Rabbi Akiva, his name was Rabbi Tarfon. And he owned endless cities. And he used to go in incognito, put on ordinary clothing, and he wanted to see how the watchmen were taking care of his estates and his gardens and his orchards and his vineyards. And he comes with his little bag of food over his back, and he goes into an orchard. The watchman orchard, in recent times, somebody was stealing fruit from the orchard. So the watchman thought, I caught the culprit. He thought, so what he's doing, he puts Reb Tarfon in a bag, in a sack, and he's taking the sack to the river to throw him in the river, drown him, the watchman. So Reb Tarfon says, woe to me, Tarfon, what did I get myself in this mess? So when the watchman heard, it's Tarfon, he's the employer, he dropped him and he ran for his life. Now, could he believe this is the employer, this is the one who owns all these endless estates? You understand? He looked like a beggar. Of course, he was incognito. In terms of what Moshe was, relative to what he was, he looked like that beggar. But who was he? He was the spiritual giant greater than an angel. So when God came to attest to the fact, the sea fled. Because he couldn't imagine, this is that. It's very interesting. I always had this difficulty. We find that Yaakov Avinu, he wrestled with an angel. And the angel wanted to kill him. They wrestled until dawn. Right? He was the archangel of Esav. And they fought to the death. Finally, at the very end, Yaakov had the upper hand, but he injured him. He injured him in his hip. Right? Dislocated his hip. So afterwards he says, I'm not letting you go until you give me a blessing. Yaakov wasn't going to release him. Because Yaakov was the victor. He will not let him go until he gives him the blessing. So he says to Yaakov, he says, what is your name? What is your name? He says, my name is Yaakov. He says, your name will no longer be Yaakov, it's going to be Yisrael. From now on. Why? Because you lorded over man and God, over God and man, so from now on your name is Yisrael, it's no longer Yaakov. So what is that? What does Yisrael represent? You lorded over God. Whoever heard a human being lording over an angel? It's impossible. And who's man? Lavan and Esav. He was victorious. He survived. Lavan and Esav. It's impossible. So I asked, he comes to kill him as Yaakov. He says, but what is your name? What do you mean, what is my name? I'm Yaakov. And he says, my name's Yaakov. You mean the angel didn't know his name was Yaakov? Hello?
I'm trying.
Didn't know his name was Yaakov? Of course he knew his name. You know what the issue was? How could this be Yaakov? He defeated an angel. How could, if Yaakov represents the physicality of a human being, how could this man defeat an angel? It's an impossibility. He says, what is your name? He says, my name is Yaakov. That's my name be baby Yaakov, but who am I? I'm that spiritual dimension. Therefore, I have the ability to defeat an angel. He says, if that's the case, it's Yisrael. Yisrael is to reveal your essence. You lord it over God and man, and therefore, you Yisrael, you're no longer Yaakov. Yaakov is a representation of the physicality. No, I will reveal, and now you're going to be displayed as that spiritual being. Similar as what the Midrash is saying regarding Moshe. The sea wouldn't split. How could you have a physical being that looks like everyone else with limitation, that he's that spiritual being? God said, he's the man. He's it. It fled. Immediately it fled. It's interesting. We find at the end of... before Yaakov passed away, Yosef heard that his father is not well. So he immediately takes Ephraim and Menashe to be blessed by his father. So he puts him on his lap, puts Menashe on the right side, Ephraim on the left side, and Yaakov goes and switches his hands. He puts his right hand on Menashe's head, on Ephraim's head on the left side, and Yosef, and he gives the bracha. Yosef realizes he becomes very upset because he's giving the blessing not to the Bechor, not to the firstborn. So he tries to lift his father's hand and put it on Menashe's head because he thought his father made a mistake. He says, I didn't make any mistake. But he tries to lift it. So Yaakov says to his son Yosef, he says, do you think the hand that smashed the angel, do you think you could lift that hand? You can't lift that hand. You know what it means to defeat an angel? This hand, it's not just a physical hand. This hand represents something which is the ultimate in spirituality. And if I decided my hand is on Ephraim, you cannot lift that hand unless I am agreeable that hand should be lifted. You understand what Yaakov is? The word he used was, I smashed an angel with this hand. Do you think you can lift my right hand that I smashed an angel? This is Yaakov. So there's a question, the sea splits. And it says, when Yaakov was returning, he says, Ki b'makli avarti es hayarden. He says, I crossed the Jordan with my walking stick. So Rashi cites a Medrash that when he crossed the Jordan split on his behalf. Avarti, ki b'makli avarti. Doesn't mean I passed over. He passed through. That means what happened at the Yam Suf, when Yaakov passed, he didn't have to wade through the water across the Yarden. It split. How does it split? Of course it split. Is there even a consideration? Did it split? Who's Yaakov? Yaakov already, he defeated the angel. Well, not he defeated. The angels that were accompanying him. Yaakov is a spiritual dimension. Of course the water split. And that's what he's saying. But what did I passed through the Yarden with the Jordan with the walkings. Today I have two camps. I have all this wealth. Who knows what the cost factor is? It says the Bnei Yisrael, they came within the sea on the dry land. The sea split. Usually after it splits, what should the sea be? Muddy. It should be muddy. It was bone dry. According to one measure, it was paved with marble. A miracle. Straight across. Rameir Omer B'loshen Echod, Rabbi Yehuda Omer B'loshen Echod. Each one, Rameir explains it in one context, and Rabbi Yehuda, who's a colleague of Rameir, he explains it in another context. Rameir Omer K'sha'omdu Hashvotim Alayam. When before the sea split, they were standing by the seashore, and the tribes, they started arguing among themselves. Who's going in first? Who's going in first? because that was a prerequisite for the sea to split. They had to show their what? Their sacrifice. They went until the necks, and then the sea split. Each one said, I will go in first. Now, Binyamin is the youngest of the tribes. He was the 12th son born to Yaakov. So what happens? They're all quarreling and bickering and fight who's going first. What does Binyamin do? He jumps in. So they got upset. You're the small brother. What are you jumping in first? Kofatz shifto shel Binyamin tchilo v'yorad liyam. So this tribe of Binyamin, they jumped into the sea. Shenemar Binyamin tzoyer rodaim. Binyamin, the youngest, he's rodaim. What's rodaim? Al tikri rodaim el reid yam. He's the first one to go into the sea. Ischilu shevet Yehuda lirga mosam avonim. So you know what Yehuda did? They started to stone him. In the water, they stoned you because we represent royalty. Yehuda's royalty. Where do you have the audacity to precede the king? The king should have been the first one to go in. So they started to throw stones at them. Shenemar, sorry Yehuda rigmosam. Roge means to stone. They began stoning them. Maybe I need some stones here to keep people wide awake. Moshe Lamelech, boss of Edom. It's analogous to a mortal king. Shayelo Shnei Bonim. He had two sons, two princes. King had two princes. One's name was Moshe Yehuda. The other's name was Chaim Yaakov. Okay. Omar le'echo tamideni ad netzachamo. Hear this? One says, king says to one of his sons, make sure to wake me up at sunrise. At sunrise. Omar le'echo tamideni b'shol shos. And he says to the other son, wake me up 3 hours after sunrise. He gave two different contradictory orders. One thing says, make sure to wake me up at sunrise. The other one says, wake me up 3 hours into the day. So the younger of the two sons comes to wake him up at sunrise. But the other son is upset. How do you wake up our father too early? Because he was told to wake him up 3 hours later. So the older son didn't let the younger son wake up his father. He was about to shake him. He didn't let him. Because the father, he told him, not before 3 hours a day. You can't do it because my father, only after 3 hours you waken the father. But they're fighting, so they're arguing. So by all the noise, the father wakes up. His father says, what's all this bickering about? They said, well, you told me 3 hours. So he sees the level of dedication that dedicated their father, that each one wants to do what the father told them. He says, your children are unbelievable. That you're willing to fight, to uphold my honor, to do my will. Both of your intention was only for my honor. Neither want to do anything incorrect or disrespectful. Therefore, you're both deserving of reward. He intentionally gave them contradictory orders because he wanted to see to what degree are they going to be dedicated to carry out that order. He says, now that I see your dedication, you're both worthy of what? Of reward. Maschar Notal, Shevet Binyamin. What was the reward, the tribe of Binyamin? What did they receive? Sheshar Shechina Bechelko. Where was the Aron? The ark was in whose portion? Benjamin's portion. That's the Holy of Holies. That was in the merit of what happened here. That he was youngest and he jumped in first into the water. The beloved of God will dwell forever. And what reward did Yehuda get? They were upset, they were stoning him. It merited kingship, royalty. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, that was the analogy, the allegory what Vaeira had given. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Sh'amdu al hayom, ze omer ani reid. Again, same bickering. But it was Kofatz, Nachshon ben Aminadav. Nachshon, the son of Aminadav, who was the prince of the tribe of Judah, he was the first one to jump in. Oma Omru Yisrael aliyam. What did the Jews say when they said the Oz Yoshir? Hashem yimloch l'olam v'ed. He said, God shall reign forever. That's Hashem yimloch l'olam v'ed. Ba'osa she'omar kodesh baruch hu, mishim licheni tchilo aliyam hu yeh melech. The one who coronated me first by the sea, he will have royalty. Who was the first one to jump into the sea? Nachshon ben Aminadav, who's the prince of the tribe of Judah. What is the whole idea of jumping into the sea? You may drown. How do you jump into the sea? There's nothing. I give my life for the king. If you demonstrate such sacrifice and dedication, selfless, you deserve to be the one to reign, to dominate. You're a dominant personality. Now, who do you send to the front first? The ordinary troops. Then, later, that's when the general comes. When they're in the midst of battle, he's behind the lines, or the more sophisticated officers. You send the infantry in. Who's the infantry? A bunch of privates, right? The lowest echelon of what? Of the army. So if Binyamin is the youngest of the tribe, who should be the one? If you're going to risk anybody's life, they should be the first ones to go in, because they're the youngest, right? Should Binyamin not serve who Achron? Who Roy Loredzi? He should be the first one to let him test the waters, right? It's like Lahavdil, have a guinea pig. Who do you use as a guinea pig? So you use the king's son. Use the ordinary commoner. Use as the guinea pig, okay? Ki hayom hu b'marov. Sharei lekach nikra marov hayom. Bishvil zeh u'marov nikra ochor. We find the west is called the behind. The east is called the front, right? In the Beis Hamikdash, it went from west, it went to the east. The east is always, that's front, right? Where does the sun rise from? It rises in the east, sets in the west. So where does it begin? What's the beginning? The beginning is the east. The west, that's where it ends. So the west is always the back. So that's the end, right? That's the end of the day. So if Binyamin is the 12th son, so that means he represents he's behind. He's the least of all. There's a commonality between him and the sea. The sea is in the west. The sea is the west, and he is the last. He's the youngest. So who should be the one who's most appropriate to go into the sea? It should be Binyamin. When they traveled, the formation in the desert, when they traveled, how did they travel? Binyamin Huyama, he was on the west side. Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin, he was on the west side. Binyamin Hoya Achron Bishvatim. Because as the west represents the back, he was what? He being the youngest, he's the last. So therefore, in the formation, he traveled in the west. In the formation. Yehuda, what is Yehuda? He's Malchus, he's royalty. He travels in front. He was on the east side. He was in the east of the camp. Lakach Diglo Hoya Kedlo. It was Kedem. Kedem is the east. These two tribes, Yehuda being the ultimate, and Binyamin being the 12th. So, who has the greater commonality with the sea? Binyamin. But Judah says, so you have the first rights. But I have first rights because I'm the first, because I'm the king. So I should be the one. So they were arguing who should be the first one to claim the right to go into, to display the sacrifice for God. Who's the first one should go in? Binyamin says, I should be the guy. I have the greatest commonality. He says, you may have the biggest commonality, but I'm the king. So if I represent royalty, royalty goes first. The king goes first. When he travels in the formation, he goes first. So therefore they started stone Binyamin. You're doing the Shayu Rotzin Loredis Tchila. Now it's interesting, you find when the spies they went to scout out the land, 10 came back with false reports. And they brought back the samples of the fruits, enormous. Literally, you needed a few people to carry one fruit. That's how big the fruits were. And a cluster of grapes, you needed 8 people to carry it on poles. That's how large it was. But it was a ploy. The ploy was, it was true that was, they said, just as the size of the fruit is abnormal, you have to have an abnormal dimension to be able to survive the land. Unless you're a giant, you can't live over there. God has taken us into a death trap. Now, Yeshua and Kolev, the two of them, they were the only ones who came back with the true reports. The other ones came back with was distorted, false reports. So Yeshua did not carry any fruit. Why didn't he carry fruit? Because he didn't want anything to do with this mutiny, this disgrace of God. It was Chil Hashem. But Kalev somehow was able to conceal his true intention. And that's why at the last moment he spoke up and they let him speak. Because they thought that he was part of the 10. He was the 11th. But factually he didn't carry any fruit. He didn't carry any fruit. So if he didn't carry any fruit, he's exposed. It shows he's no different than Yeshua. The answer is, but who is Kalev? Kalev is the tribe of Yehuda. That's Malchus. A king doesn't carry anything. So he was able to conceal his true reason because he's a representation of Malchus. Being royalty doesn't carry. Okay? Based on the pasuk, it says regarding a king, it says Som Tosim Alecha Melech. You must establish a king upon yourselves. What's the reiteration? Som Tosim. Tosim Alecha Melech. You should place a king upon you. It means a point. What's the reiteration? Som Tosim. Like it's reiterating. Place a king upon you. So the Gemara says that Melech Shemachal Akvodo Ein Kvodo Mochel. A king cannot waive his honor. The Torah says a king is not permitted to waive his honor. Why? Because what is the value of a king? It's to instill fear, and people have to revere him. If he has a right to waive his honor, so his whole representation of reverence is undermined. Therefore, a king is not permitted, Torah violation. He's not permitted to waive his honor. What about, he has to compromise his honor because it's a question of Chil Hashem. I mean, a desecration of God's name is taking place, and he has to do something which he will disgrace himself. Does he have to intervene and stop it? Although it's the cost of disgracing himself. He does it. But he's not permitted to waive his honor. So it's based on a verse in Mishnah in Proverbs, because it says when it's a question of Chil Hashem, there's no such thing as honor. When it comes to honoring God, everything is nullified. The king means nothing, nothing means anything. So therefore he goes and he disgraces himself for the sake of God. Yehuda says, I should be the first one to jump in. What do you mean you jump in? You send your lackey, you're a king. You send your attendant, let him jump in. Right? You go to the laundromat, you send your valet to the laundromat. Correct? Or who does the cleaning? The king does the cleaning himself? Doesn't. So what's the answer? This is Kiddush Hashem. Jumping into the sea, although it means that you may drown, I'm showing my sacrifice for God. I'm not talking about I'm compromising my honor for me or for a mortal. I'm willing to give it all up to show my dedication to Hashem, to God. It's a whole different thing. Gemara tells a story. It's a Gemara at the very end of Makos that there was a king and he had a tremendous love for Talmidei Chachamim. And when he would see a Torah sage, he would descend from his throne and he would take the sage and he would hug him and he'd kiss him and he would say, Rebbe, Rebbe, Mori, Mori. My rabbi, my teacher. And he was displayed a tremendous amount of love for the Torah sage. So they ask a question, what's going on over here? But displaying that kind of emotion and feeling, it's a compromise on his honor. Now, when he kissed the person and says, Rebbe, it says he hugged him and he would kiss him and say, Rebbe, Rebbe, Mori, Mori. What's he kissing? What's he value? Is it the innate, it's the value of the human being? Or it's what he represents? David HaMelech, when he was reprimanded by his wife because he danced by the Aron, his wife says, don't you realize you're a king, you disgraced us. He says, I disgraced you. This is the ultimate honor. Displaying my love for God in that manner and revealing myself. This is the ultimate. What am I, I'm doing this for a mortal? This is showing how you have to serve God. That's the ultimate. The same thing. When he came down and you kissed him and hugged him, this is more precious than a diamond. You have to esteem the Torah. You have to revere the Torah. We read in last week's Parsha that Hashem said to Moshe that your brother Aaron, when he finds out that you were chosen to be the Redeemer, he would go out into the desert v'samach belibo, and he will have joy in his heart. So it says when they met in the desert, it says he kissed him. Aaron kissed Moshe. So the Sifarno says when he kissed him, it's like kissing a holy object. Understand? He didn't kiss Moshe as a human being. When he understood Moshe is the Redeemer, Moshe is an angel. We're not talking about an ordinary person. Firstly, he's Hashem. He's Malocho. He's the Malach. Malach means God's agent. So what is he? He kissed him. So it says, as if you kiss something that's holy. That's the Sefarno. It's the same thing. When the king kissed the Talmud Chacham, the Torah sage, it says, Rebbe, Rebbe, Mori, Mori. It wasn't just kissing a mortal. It was the representation of the innate value of that Torah sage. That's what it was. I'm going to stop here. I can't